camera angle. The camera angle describes the camera's position relative to the subject. A 3D subject will display different facets of its design according to the viewpoint of its observer. Moving the camera's position left, right, up or down will substantially change the appearance of the image. Lens angle, that is varying the angle of view, includes or excludes additional information. It can roughly magnify subject size and emphasize the principal subject. There are 3 types of lenses: wide-angle lens, the normal lens, and the narrow-angle lens. Camera distance. The principal distance of the lens from the principal subject controls the linear perspective of the shot and can have significant influence on composition. Often, camera distance and lens angle are adjusted simultaneously to produce changes in size relationships in shot. Camera height, that is, changing the camera height, alters the relationship between the foreground and background. Low camera height emphasizes foreground and eliminates receding horizontal lines. High camera position allows showing of position relations over a wide area. Low camera height allows the subject to dominate. Camera movement. Camera movement can be conveniently grouped as functional or decorative movement. Functional movement is reframing to accommodate subject movement. Decorative can be defined as planned and deliberate change of camera position or zoom to provide a visual variety, narrative emphasis, motivated by action or dialogue. Frame. The image's border, whose necessity is obvious, has its dimensions and proportions and is called frame. The image that lies within the frame is referred to as field of view. The field of view refers to how wide or close the object appears relative to the camera. It is the area or the amount of the scene which is shown on the screen and is called shot. Depth of field. To add depth of field to a 2D flat image on a television screen is crucial to lend the picture certain credibility. This is what filmmaking is all about: presenting pictures as realistically as possible. The major factors that influence depth of field in a frame are the choice of the lens, positioning of the objects, lighting, and color. What is composition? The aesthetic part of elements arranged in the frame is called composition. In other words, arranging all the visual elements in the frame in a way that it makes the image a satisfactory and complete whole. Principles of good composition are grouping and organization. This is the principle of unity, arranging all elements, objects in the frame in such a way that they look interrelated. This satisfies the viewer's perceptual tendency, providing them with a visual clue for essential and meaningful communication. Some elements are grouped together because they are close to each other, others because of similar size, shape, direction, or color. Balance. Having grouped the subjects in a frame, the mind also forms relationships of the shapes it has organized. One such relationship is balance within a frame. Balance in a composition is distributing the visual elements across the frame so that a state of equilibrium is achieved for the whole. Ratio and proportion. The concept of ratio and proportion in composition plays an important role in indicating the key areas in the frame. Leonardo da Vinci called it as divine proportion. It is also called the golden section. The rule of thirds. Compositional balance using the ratio revolves around positioning the main visual elements on the subdivisions obtained by dividing the golden section points. This compositional convention came to be called as rule of thirds. This rule proposes that useful starting point for any compositional grouping places the main subject of interest on any of the 4 intersections made by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and vertical lines. The ratio dividing the frame into 1/3 and 2/3 has almost become a visual convention. Lines and curves. Lines in a picture can directly impact the viewer. Within the frame, The visual elements can be perceptually grouped into lines and can be used to direct the eye around the image from one part to another, preferably around the main subject of interest where that is located. Vertical means formality or height. Horizontal lines mean breadth, stability or rest. Diagonal lines mean dynamic, exciting or forceful. Light. Light as a compositional element has a unique place in visual design. In lighting, there are two goals: get enough light and use the light you have to shape and define objects in the scene. Lighting is often tried on paper using a lighting diagram before it is actually set. Many potential problems can be spotted in the process of constructing a lighting diagram. The most common of these is to light for a theoretical stage front rather than lighting for specific camera positions. It is also useful in anticipating problems with shadows falling where they are not wanted. Every light casts a shadow. Extreme wide shot. The view is so far from the subject that the subject isn't even visible. This is often used as the establishing shot. Very wide shot, the subject is barely visible, but the emphasis is still on placing the object in the environment. Wide shot, the subject takes up the full frame, or at least as much as possible, and is called long shot. Mid-long shot, the subject takes up 3/4 of the frame. Mid shot shows some part of the subject in more detail while giving an impression of the whole subject. Medium close-up, that is halfway between a mid shot and a close-up shot. Close-up is a certain feature on the part of the subject and that takes up the whole frame. The extreme close-up gets right in and shows extreme detail. Two shot is a comfortable shot of two people framed similarly to a mid shot. Over the shoulder shot is looking from behind a person at the subject. Point of view shot shows a view from the subject's perspective. Weather shot, the subject is usually the weather. Pan. A pan is moving the camera left to right on its head. The main use of pan is to show relationships. Tilt. A tilt involves up and down movement of the camera on its head. Tilt is used to view elements above and below the frame. It shifts the horizon of the frame, adding emphasis to the ground and sky. Pedestal up or down. The stand for a heavy studio television or film camera is called a pedestal. Raising the camera in the mounted state is called pedestal up. Lowering the camera is called pedestal down. It changes the level from where the subject is being framed. Truck movement. Moving a camera and the mount side to side is called truck right or truck left. It is used to follow the subject along the scene. It is also called crab left or crab right. Dolly. To move the camera with its mount towards the subject is called dolly in, and to move it further away is called dolly out. Whenever the camera to subject distance changes, the focus must be adjusted. It alters the relationship between foreground and background. It is also called track in or out. The difference between track and zoom. Track is the physical movement of the camera towards or away from the subject, while zoom magnifies the field of view, keeping intact the existing size relationship. Track changes the viewpoint. Zoom introduces the compositional inertia to the frame. Tracking can give greater depth of space when compared to zoom. Arc left or arc right is the movement of the camera along with its mount in an angular path around the subject. It is used to create another viewpoint, excluding or including the foreground-background subject, and to realign or recompose the subject when it moves. It also changes visual emphasis within the frame. Headroom. The way our eyes see is quite different from the camera. Camera's look is confined to 4 edges. The edges somewhat attract like magnets whatever is close to them. For this reason, you should leave some space above people's heads in all shots. This space is called headroom. Nose room. Somebody looking or pointing in a particular direction other than straight into the camera creates an area of interest outside the screen area. We must provide some space within the frame to connect to this outside frame interest area. This space within the frame, which connects to an outside space of interest, is called nose room. Closure. The television screen is small, so most subjects are shown in close-ups and other parts of the subject are left to the viewer's imagination. The 180-degree rule. Crossing the imaginary line which runs between the characters in a scene and the observing camera will involve a sense of discontinuity, as a person facing right will suddenly face left. To avoid this, a camera is usually shifted when it is recording, or usually a cut is involved. Reverse shot sequence. This is a basic sequence in a classical narrative construction. For example, shots of 2 characters engaged in dialogue will favor one first and then the other. Continuity. Continuity means that all shots in a sequence must connect smoothly, a phrase even more appropriate for getting to connect seamlessly. To maintain continuity, the director must ensure visual detail in subsequent shots is consistent. Continuity in terms of content, movement, scene, action, dress, time, and sound all have to be ensured to give smooth flow feeling to the audience.